everybody. Hope you had a good week. Mine was all right. It was snowing for one day. It's still very, very cold, but today we had some sunshine, which is always a big celebratory deal up here in the Pacific Northwest. So thank you and hello to all the new subscribers. It's still blowing my mind how many of you have chosen to take a chance and hit that subscribe button and see what, I usually ramble on about. Thank you so much for that. And in celebration, I was thinking we could maybe do a little project together. So I have decided to just ignore everything else I have to do and start a new project to work together with you on. I need a new little decorative pillow for on my bed. Yes, I need it. And I have decided to just, make it together with you. So I put a little tutorial together. If you have never done paper piecing before but always wanted to try, this might be a good project for you. It's not a big project, so it will give you a good idea of what paper piecing is about. You can try it out. It's not a super intricate project. It's a beginner friendly project that I'm doing. And I will talk you through from the beginning how to draft your pattern pieces all the way to the end, finishing the pillow, okay? It's only going to be about, well, mine is going to be about 9 by 10. Yours will be a little bigger because I show you how to make these pattern pieces a little different. They're a little bigger than the ones that my paper punch makes. So, but I get to this in a second. So, if you want to work along, I'd be so happy. Let me know. And definitely, if you do work along, show me what you make. I'm sidewalk.pirate on Instagram. If you have an Instagram and show it off there, do tag me, please. It would be so much fun to see what you make, okay? Right, so let's get started. When I first started paper piecing, what intrigued me about it was that I can use tiny bits of fabric and, just scraps of things that wouldn't have a use otherwise, and that I can do it without having to invest a lot of money into it. So you can use paper scraps and fabric scraps, and you don't need a lot of tools. I mean, everybody has scissors and a sewing needle and a sewing pin at home, probably, and some thread. So that's what I really, really liked about it, and that's what got me into it. I used to draft all the little pieces, all these little paper pieces by hand when I first started. I won't lie to you, it gets boring really, really quick if you have to do that. But my very first quilt, I drafted all of them by hand. It was just a baby quilt, so it wasn't huge, but yeah, it was a lot of work. You can reuse these, so you don't have to draft all the pieces for the entire project by hand, because you can take them out when you're done sewing it together and use it for the making more, especially on bigger projects. For little projects like this pillow, I usually put all of these together. I punch them all out, or I draft them all. I'm sorry, because it isn't too many. And I explain that later why. So I will show you how to draft these diamonds by hand. And diamonds are really, really easy to draft. Way easier than hexagons. But again, I'll show you how that is done. So it is a lot of work, and if you don't want to do it all by hand, you can invest in a paper punch. They are not cheap. When I got these, I think they ran between $16 and $20. And if I had to buy this one again, I didn't pay attention when I bought this one. So my bottom angle down here of the diamond is 53 degrees, which when you want to make one of those little stars, you lay them in the round, the 53-degree angle will not make a star for you. The first and the last one of these diamonds will overlap by just about 1/8 of an inch. So that's really sad. So if I had to buy it again, I would make sure that my angle down here is either 45, 60, or 72. All three of those angles will make you stars, and just a different amount of little points on the star, depending on the angle. But definitely these are a good idea if you think, if you've done a couple and you think you really would like to get more into it and have some extra cash to spare. a lot of people have a Cricut cutter, and I know a couple of viewers told me that it's pronounced cricket, not circuit, and I always said that wrong, so thank you for clarifying that for me. So you can get a Cricut cutter, which cuts these shapes for you, and they cut all of the shapes. I mean, they will cut tumblers or hexagons or diamonds or triangles, whatever, in all kinds of sizes for you. It's much easier, obviously, but they are a little bit more on the expensive side. They're between $200 and $300 from what I have seen. So that's a little out of my price range. So for me, paper punches is where it's at the moment. I will show you how to draft these diamonds with the 45-degree angle. Basically, drafting diamonds is the same. The principle stays the same, never mind what angles you use, okay? Or what size you make this this side length here. But I will show you how to draft these. These are a 45-degree angle and an inch side, okay? And these will, if you want to make a star, they will make a star shape. Let me show you how pretty that could be. So you could sew them together like this. If you wanted to, the pillow that we're making is not going to be having a star shape because my little paper punches only tessellate in a row. But you could, if you get a paper punch with a 45 or a 60 or a 72-degree angle, they all will make the little stars for you. All right, so when you buy a punch, make sure that you get one of those. If you do not want to spend $20 on a paper punch, I would suggest, or I would recommend a quilting ruler, because they can go and be used for so many other things, not just quilting. They are really, really, really useful, and I love, love, love mine. I use them for everything, as you can see. I actually cleaned this one up for you. There was way more acrylic paint on it. I use them for everything. So this one is just a small one. This is the one that I'm going to use today, but they also have bigger ones. My larger one has a 45-degree angle and a 60-degree angle on it, but it's too large for me to use here on my desk, so I'm going to show you what to do with this small one. You could also use a ruler and a protractor. I bought this little set at my thrift store, so you know they come in really handy for a lot of things around the house or when you craft. So you could also do this with a protractor and a ruler if you wanted to. But honestly, these quilting rulers are a really great investment. Right, so what we need first is a piece of paper. I would use cardstock, something a little bit stronger than just regular, you know, flimsy magazine papers or something. And we need a, let me sharpen this really quickly. We need a pencil. So we want to have diamonds that have a 45-degree angle down here and an inch on the side, okay? So what you do is you make paper strips that are an inch wide. So you put your ruler right here. Let me look at it from above. Here's the inch mark. And you can, of course, make your paper strips way longer than I have mine here. And you make a line down there. And then you have an inch paper strip, because we want the side length to be an inch. So your paper strip has to be the same width as you want this side to be. If you want to have a 2-inch side, you would make this strip 2 inches wide or 1.5 inches, depending on how long you want this side, okay? And of course you can make a couple of paper strips and lay them over each other before you cut them. All right, then you take your quilting ruler or, you know, your protractor. You need to see that the 45-degree line lines up with this line right here. You could cut it out, obviously. I'm not gonna. And then this edge needs to intersect this corner right here. So line up the 45-degree angle. It's kind of hard for me to see with the camera in the way. Actually, it's not a camera, it's my phone. Look at me being all fancy. And you make a line down, like so. Oop, and I didn't do this. You need to be fairly accurate here, because you do want your triangles, your diamonds to be all the same size. Because if they're not, and you start sewing them together, it's going to be, you're not going to be happy. So this is going to go away. We're not using this, but we're going to make diamonds right now from here on out. So you keep sliding the 45-degree line further over until, let me turn my ruler around here. So you keep sliding the 45-degree line over until your 1-inch line hits this line, okay? You just keep sliding it over and over and over and over, and then you hit that line. Make sure those two lines line up. So your 45-degree line and your 1-inch line, and then you just make another line down. And you keep sliding it over and over until these two lines meet up again, like so. And another time. There we go. And another line down. And this is going to go away again. And of course you can make much longer paper strips, and you can cut, put a couple together, you know, stack them on top of each other and then cut them out. You can cut them out with rotary cutters. I use scissors. There you go. And then you just cut out your diamonds like so. All right. And for this pillow, you will need 77 of these. You could make less and then just reuse them as you sew them together, but I recommend make 77 of these. Okay. For smaller projects like 100 pieces and less, I like to make all my paper templates all at once, because I can put them in little bags like this. I have also all my fabric already cut. It's all in here. There's my my needle pillow for this, my little needle book for this. I have my sewing wax in here and my thread and all the little templates. They're all in here. If I go someplace, I grab my little pouch here and pop it in my purse, and I can sew on the go. And, you know, if you have to wait at a bus stop, or, I don't know, you go to the DMV, I don't know what your plans are, you just grab this and you can sew there while you're waiting in line or whatever. And, you know, shortens the waiting time a little, and you can get a whole lot done. You would be surprised how many of these you can get done while you wait. So that was for your little paper pieces. These are the templates that you will make, that you will sew your fabric around. For the fabric, you can cut it in the same fashion. If you have, you know, a large piece of fabric, you would cut a strip of fabric out of here. I'm not going to do that right now, but for the fabric, you need to add the seam allowance. So if you have this side being 1 inch, you will have to cut your fabric to 1.5 inches so that you get a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Okay, so you would basically, yeah, this isn't straightened right now, but maybe I can, hold on. Maybe I can straighten this really quickly. Okay, well, this is as straight as it's gonna get. So you would basically, here's your inch. Let me put this out of. So here would be your inch, and then you would add a 1/4 seam allowance to each of the sides. So you need to go to 1.5 inches. You make your line here, or, you know, you cut it with your rotary cutter if you have one. If not, you would just mark it like so. And then the same thing goes. You would have your ruler on the 45-degree angle. You would intersect with this corner right here, and you cut that off. Oop. With your rotary cutter, obviously. And then you would slide it over. Where's my inch? Here's my inch. So you would slide it over so that the 1.5 inch mark is now. Oh, I should have maybe put you closer. Let me get you in a little closer. So there. And so you slide the 45-degree angle along this line, and you slide it over until the 1.5 inch mark hits this line. Okay, like so. Let me put it down. right here, and then you would take your rotary cutter, or if you don't have one, you just make another line right here, and then you slide this over again until the 1.5 inch line hits this with your rotary cutter, cut it off, or make a line. And here are your diamonds, and they are bigger than these because you do need to, you do need the extra seam allowance to fold this over and then sew it, baste it onto the paper template. Okay, so that's how you could cut your fabric. Now if you have only a little random bit, let me go find a little random bit of fabric. I have so many down here. Okay, this isn't the best fabric, but let's just use this. Okay, if you only have a little random bit of fabric, I mean, you can't really make a strip out of it, but you can still get enough out here to make actually one of these diamonds, and you know it's one of your favorite fabrics and you want to use it. You will need one of these templates, and these can be really well made out of lids from margarine tubs or any of these little plastic lids that come on food packaging. Just wash it off and then draft one of these, and I show you how to draft these, or out of cardstock. I mean, like really tough cardstock though, almost like oh, what is it called? The stuff that comes on the back of calendars or the back of like notepads, that kind of hard cardstock. You can also make it out of see-through plastic, like the see-through lids of those food packaging, because then if you have a if you have a pattern and you wanted, let's say this, in the middle of your diamond, you could lay it on here and you would see where the pattern is, and then you can cut accordingly. Okay, it's called fussy cutting. So if you don't have any food packaging, you can make one of these and see where the center is here. You can cut this out, and then you can slide it around and still see where your the images that you want. All right, so for this you would take one of the diamonds that you cut out and you would lay it on another piece of paper like so, and you trace around it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have that diamond traced on here, and then you grab a, what did I do with it? You can grab either your quilting ruler, or you can see if you have any other ruler, like this ruler. For me, I know that the distance between this pattern and the edge is 1/4 inch. So you could find a ruler that does the same thing for you. Or you could use your quilting ruler at the 1/4 inch mark, which is like right here. And you would lay the 1/4 inch mark on this line, like so. And then you just make a line, and then you lay it on the other line, because this is going to be for our fabric, and for the fabric we need to add the seam allowance. So it needs to be a larger template to cut out the fabric than it is the little diamond shapes that we are sewing it around. And here, so. And now we have the diamond shape with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you just cut this out like so. If you have a paper cutter, you could probably use a paper cutter. I have one, but mine is so old. It rips the paper. I really need to replace it. Mine rips paper rather than cut it. And that's not really what we want for this. We want a nice clean edge on this. And like I said, get something that is more stable or a little thicker than the cardstock I'm using here, because this is going to get a lot of use out of it. I traced all my 77 pieces of fabric, and you see how it's sort of like fuzzy on the edges, and plastic or harder cardstock, what is it called? I can't remember. There is a name for that. Back of the, it'll come to me. It'll come to me when I least expect it. So now we have the two things we need. You would take this template then and put it on top of your little piece of fabric and trace around it like so. This is not the right fabric because it's actually jersey fabric, and you don't want anything that stretches. You would trace around it like so, and then you can cut it out, and it's the right size to sew around your little shape. Okay, so that's 2 ways to draft the diamond pattern for the fabric and the diamonds that actually, you know, for your pattern, for your the paper pieces. There is another way to draft the diamonds that uses a oh gosh, my English words are gone. One of these things, I don't know what you call them in English, but it's way more involved. I think this is so much easier, and you know, again, invest in a quilting ruler. They are great for so many different things. Now we want to obviously sew these little guys around our fabric. Now, I said for little parts, for little projects like this, I like to cut all of these out first and then cut all my fabric and sew them all around. And here's the reason why. So I've already cut all this out and I have started sewing them together. I opted for blue and mostly yellow with a couple of pops of color, but I show you why I like to, for the smaller bits, sew all of my parts, my pieces first, because now when they're all done, I still have a few to go, but when they're all done, I can take them and I can lay them out and see which fabrics I like next to each other, or if I want to make a pattern with them, you know, I can just lay them all out like so and figure out what I think would look the best, you know. And I mean, 77, that's really not a lot, but you can kind of lay them out and see what you like, and you know, replace some if you don't like it. You know, you can move them around until the whole project looks the way you want it to look. Then you take a photo of it and you can put them all away again, and then you can just sew and look at your photo, you know, which one comes next, and it will look exactly the way you want it to look. That way you don't have to sew something on and then you know, I really don't like that color here as much, and you have to rip it back again and do it all over. So that's why I do it. You don't have to. You can make them one by one and sew them together, but I like to know kind of what it will look like in the end, if that makes sense. So now let me show you how to sew this into that. I thread based all of it, all of my pieces, because it works for me. I like actually doing the basting. I have tried glue basting. It's not for me. Definitely, if you are new to this, definitely go try both ways. I just don't like glue basting because there's so much you have to pay attention to. First off, it's more expensive for me. I buy my basting thread at the thrift stores because it's just basting thread. It just needs to hold the paper in my shape until I sew them together. That's it, you know, so you don't need the most expensive thread for that. So I buy them at the thrift stores and I get them, you know, for pennies on the dollar. Now, quilting thread is something else. Always buy good quilting thread. Okay, but the basting thread, really, you don't need to pay a lot of money for that. And glue is more expensive than my thread is. And second off, when you glue these things in, if you use too much glue, you're gonna have a hard time getting them back out. If you use, you know, the right amount of glue, but it is hot outside, it's all gonna come apart. So you would put this in here, and you would put a little bit of glue here and then fold this over, you know, and put it on all these sides, and that's how you glue baste it. But if it's hot outside, the glue will melt and it's all going to come undone and all your work was for nothing. You also have to make sure that you don't put it too close to the edge, because then your needle will get gunky when you try to sew it together. You need to make sure that you don't fold it over too tight, because with glue this won't give, and then you have a really hard time sewing the shapes together. With thread basting, I can still move this around. See, this still moves around on me, so I can make it really tight and get really nice and sharp corners and still have no problem sewing these together. With glue basting, maybe it's just me, you know, maybe it's just me, maybe it just that's the experiences I had with it. That's why I stopped glue basting. But by all means, if you're new to this, please try it out, because a lot of people swear by it. So there must be something to it that maybe I just don't see. I don't know. But try it out. So now we have our fabric cut. We have our little paper shape here. Now we need to fasten this to this. You could, if you're so inclined, put a little dab of glue back here and pop that on here. Washable glue. It has to be washable so it comes off again. I don't. I use a pin, and usually I use these big pins. They're just regular sewing pins, but these shapes are rather small, so I use the smaller ones. See how small they are? They're much smaller than these. So these are the ones that I use. They're good to have around for tiny projects like that. I have a bunch of them. I'm not sure where I got them. I'm sure Joanne sells them. Or, you know, other haberdashery stores. So have a look. They're the really small ones. And I just pin my shape to my fabric like this. Okay. Then you grab some of your thread. Oh, let's get some new thread. Where's my new thread? Here's my new thread. And try to thread your needle. There we go. Haha. Second time around. Right. I like to wax my thread because it helps it not tangle up so much. So how you do that is just you run your thread over your wax a couple of times, like so. And then you run it through your fingers a few times. There we go. And then we make a knot in here. And this can be a giant knot, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now that we're all ready, you take your shape, and you always start on the larger angle, okay? You flip one side in, you flip the other side in, like so. Come on. And then you just take a little stitch through here and another little stitch, and that keeps it in shape. And then you come up here. You can, when you're, you know, starting to do this, it's all a little bit, you know, kind of new, and your fingers are still learning the muscle memory. You could finger press it a little. That keeps it a little better in shape. And then flip this side over, and I hold the little flag out of my way, like just like so. And we're talking about that little flag in just a little bit, in about a minute. So, and you take two little stitches in here, and then the next side, nice and tight, so you get nice sharp corners. Whoops. There we go. And again, if glue basting is your thing, there's nothing wrong with glue basting this if it works for you. It doesn't work for me. And also I just like doing this. I just like, you know, sitting there. My husband and I like to listen to audiobooks together, and I sit there and I baste a couple of, you know, these, or maybe some hexagons. So that's the last side, and you just fasten off your thread like so. And you clip it. Where's my clippers? Oh, I took them out. Okay. So you clip it, and then there you have it. You take the little pin out, and one more is done. So I like to sit there in the evening and, you know, just keep working on it. Or like I said, when I'm waiting in line somewhere, and you would be surprised how many of these you can get done. Also, another little tip, when you have your fabric, where is it here? So this fabric I could use either way. This is a little darker and this is a little lighter. So always look at the other side of your at the other side of your fabric, because sometimes they can be used both ways and give you two different, you know, views of your fabric. So again, where was I? Okay, if you want to glue base, and do try it out. Don't just say, well, you know, try it out, because maybe it works for you. Maybe glue basting is exactly what you need, and to make to make this interesting for you and to have you continue to do paper piecing. You never know. Let's do one more. Let's get a lighter colored one so that you can see what I'm doing. Oh, I'm showing you one more time how I do this, and then we talk about the little flags and why I have them. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Oh, come on. There we are. Right. There we go. Again, you start at the larger angle, you flip this over, and you flip this over. Oops. And this is pretty much the same for every shape. If it is a hexagon or a tumbler or a triangle, you flip, you know, the sides in, and you baste them down. Other side. There you go. And I just hold the little flag out of my way like this. Here you go. The next side. I hope you can see this. Ouch. Try not to stick yourself on the pin. There are places that will give you printable paper piecing shapes. They are out on the internet. You could Google them. There are some Etsy stores that sell them, so you would get the shape and then you just print them out on your printer, and you can cut them out, so you don't have to draft them yourself like I showed you. So that's also an option. And there are reusable plastic templates to sew in here as well. I do it this way because, again, I have paper around the house. It doesn't cost much, and it's, you know, getting recycled before you eventually toss it out. And you can reuse these. So when I'm done sewing, I will take these out and I will use those for another project down the line somewhere until they fall apart, because, you know, with these less, but the hexagons you kind of fold when you sew them together. So I use them until they fall apart. Okay, so now these flags, I have them, or I make the flags because they give you really, really sharp points. See how sharp my points are? If you don't like that, you know, having to deal with this when you sew them together, or the only other time I don't make these flags is if I use the little shapes to applique onto something, then you don't want these flags either. And the way to get around it, or not to have these flags, is you would get your piece and you again pin it or glue it in, and then you would fold this over like so. Okay, and then you get the, I'll sew one to show you. I'm not, where's my needle go? Oh, I need a knot in here before I start sewing. Let me make a knot really quickly. I show you the difference, because folding that in is going to make the tip a little bulkier. So you would go like this. And then fold in the tip like so, and fold this over like so, and then go through that. I don't know if you saw that. I show you with the other side. Like so, and then fold this down, up, and you fold this over, and you fold, I don't know if you saw that, so I fold this over first, and then you fold that over, and you stitch through it. I hope you saw that. Oh. Fasten it off, cut your thread. Right. And now, let me see if I find one here. It's a darker one. So see the different tips, if you can see what a nice sharp point I have on this one. And this is just not, you know, it's just a little duller. It's kind of bulky back here. I mean, it's just as well, you can sew them just as well together, you know, if you want to sew them. But this, with the sharp points, it matches up a little. You know, it's just, you know, just a sharper point. I like sharp points. There you have it. And it gives it to me. And it just all will be a little neater when you end up sewing them together. Let me get another one. Because you will be sewing them together like so. And there's just a fatter tip. Now, if you want to applique this down on something, this will be nicer because, you know, you don't have to deal with having to cut this off and then folding it in, and, you know, so if you applique these down on something, I usually make this fold, but if I quilt them together like this, I do not. All right, so I always make the little flags. My husband's cooking. So there you have that. We talked about the little flags. I show you one more. I show you one more just to make sure that you saw how this works. And then we talk a little about the project and what you need for it. So your pillow will come out just a little bigger than mine because your diamonds are a little differently shaped than mine, because like I said, my paper punch makes a different angle, so they turn out, yours are going to be a little longer, but mine are just a little fatter. Okay, so your pillow may be just a little bigger than mine in the end, but a little bigger pillow isn't a bad thing. Right, so you start at the white angle. Okay, like so. You come to the other end and finger press that for you in the beginning. It will make it a little easier. Pop that flag out of your way. Just take 2 stitches out of here. Whoop. Try not to poke yourself while you're doing all this. Make sure your thread doesn't get caught underneath. And your basting thread does not have to match. It doesn't matter because nobody will see it again unless they take the project apart, okay? So you can use whatever thread you have. I usually use, you know, the colors thread that I don't like as much, or that I'm usually not using as much, or whatever is for sale at the thrift store. I honestly, I'm not picky about my basting thread. But my quilting thread, I am picky. So there you go. There you have that. I hope it makes sense. You need 77 of these for your project. You have a week to make them all. I'm almost done, so I'm going to continue to record the videos to show you next week how these are all going to get sewn together, okay? And how I lay them out and make up my mind which colors I want together, and which, you know, do I want, like with this little checkerboard, I think some polka dots would be quite nice. Do I want the red ones, or do I want pink ones? I have pink polka dots. So, or some flowers, you know, so I can actually make up my mind which colors look good together, so that they kind of work together. Or if I actually want to make a pattern with it, you could use more colors than I did. You can use all the colors. You can make sure that every single one of these 77 little diamonds has a different fabric or a different pattern on it, or you could use only 2 colors and, you know, just make that a pattern, or you could use only 1 color and then make your quilting thread a different color so that that pops out, and that would look really, really cute, I think. So you have a lot of options, but you need 77 of these, 77 of these, so you can, you know, sew them all together. And then next week we're talking about how to sew these together and continue with the pillow. And then the third week we are finishing off the whole pillow. I show you how to finish and make it actually into a pillowcase. And next week sewing it together and starting to quilt it. Okay? All right, I hope that works. I hope you work along. Again, if you are on Pinterest and want to show on Instagram and want to show it off, I'm sidewalk.pirate on Instagram. I'm also on Pinterest, and I'm also Sidewalk Pirate on Pinterest if you want to find me. All right. I really hope you work along. It would be so much fun to do this together. And I hope I see you again next week. It would be so, so nice. And I hope you're having fun being here and watching my videos. Thank you so much for subscribing. I guess I see you then. Have a great, great week, everybody. Bye.